والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah. You're watching Clearing the Fog, lifting the fog of miscommunication, misunderstandings, and misrepresentation of Islam and the teachings that go along with it. This is your host, Yusuf Estes, and I would like to continue in this particular segment of our series talking about the treatment of women. And this is just one example of how people misunderstand something and the proper way to give the answer to help the people to better understand and even come to Islam themselves. I happened to have been in Florida during Ramadan one time, and after the talk that we gave in the masjid, there were two visitors there who had some questions. They asked me if I would go talk to these ladies and try to answer their question that they had about Islam. I said, sure, why not? So I went to sit with them. These were two young college girls, about 19 each. And they were asking me about a question about the treatment of women. And they said, I have one question, then that's it. I said, you only have one question. I said, there's only one question standing between you and understanding real Islam. Is that it? You heard me explain we believe in one God. We've talked about how we have to worship Him and do what He wants us to do, etc. And you just have one question. They said, that's right. I said, well, that's great. What's your question? They said, we want to know why you have a partition between the men and the women. Why is there this hijab or curtain or partition in your masjid here, separating the men from the women? I said, that's your only question? They said, yeah. I said, this is amazing. Nothing else. You understand what I talked about, how God is one, how you have to do what He wants you to do? They said, yeah, we got all that. I said, okay, good. So this is the only thing holding you back. They said, what do you mean? I said, well, let me explain something to you. In Islam, we consider it an honor for us to give answers to questions. So we thank you for asking us about our religion. The next thing is, we must always tell the truth. It's not an option for us. And if we don't tell the truth, Allah will put us in hell for that. So definitely, we want very much to be on that truth. Next thing is, we have the proof. Everything in Islam has been recorded, authenticated, and preserved for over 1,400 years. And keeping that in mind, I want you to think that what I'm going to say to you today, you can verify for yourself. And by the way, a lot of times we find questions that are not really questions. They have statements in them that mean be straightened out. And in this case, your question is a good one. And I'd like to mention that the answer to it has helped people get into Islam. And they're looking at me like, what? And then I began to give them the answer. But before I did, I said, if you hear something that I'm going to say today that makes you feel good, and you say, gee, I like that. That's something I didn't know. This is something I like for me, something I want to do. Then are you going to be prepared to consider worshiping your Lord alone without any partners? Because in reality, that's all Islam is about. It's about worshiping God on His terms. And are you going to be ready to do that? They said, well, what's the answer? I said, okay. Before I go any further, can I ask you a question? What's your religion? They said, yeah, we're Catholic. I said, well, that's good. Catholic is a religion been around for a long time. But I want to ask you, in your religion, the best of your women, how do they dress? Don't they cover all up? They said, yeah, but that's not our question. We're not asking about the covering, the hijab. No. We're asking about the partition in the masjid. Why do you have a separation of the men from the women? I said, well, this is a part of the answer, but I want you to come from your point of view so you can understand. Do you have women that are considered your best women, and don't they wear this hijab, this covering? They said, yeah, we have that. I said, okay. Now, do these women have babies? They said, oh, no, never. I said, why? They said, they never get married. I said, okay. They don't ever get married? Why? They said, because they're married to God? I said, that's a good one. You guys have a problem with the Muslims that we can get married to 4 wives, but you're saying your God can get married to how many? I'm just joking, but still, it's something for you to think about when you start talking about Islam compared to other religions. And they said, well, yeah, but what about this petition? We want to know, why do you have it? I said, well, I'm coming to that. If you understand in Islam, the best of our women do wear the hijab. That's true. But at the same time, they're encouraged to get married. We like for the Muslims to get married and to have babies. That's a good purpose of marriage, isn't it? That we should get married, have children, and subhanAllah, this is a beautiful part of our life, that it's complete, it's holistic. We don't ask people to give up a natural instinct to be religious. We ask them to follow what God has put in their hearts, which is to get married and have children. Now, when a woman has a baby, she has to nurse her baby. Isn't that true? They said, well, yes. And I said, now, how could a woman come to this mosque and sit here and listen to this program tonight and have a baby? She'd have to feed it. Now, how could she do that? So here you have this petition which allows the women to remove their hijab and sit and relax. If they have a baby, they can feed their baby because they can expose themselves in front of other women. They just can't do it in front of strange men. So she doesn't have to wear the covering behind this screen. And in fact, the women from your church, the Catholic Church, have to wear their hijab or their covering or what's called the habit. They have to wear it all the time. They wear it from the time they wake up until the time they go to sleep. The only time they don't wear it is when they go to sleep at night. Whereas for the Muslim women, they never have to wear it, except when they're going to be out in public or if some strange man would come to their house. So this is the difference. And what we do by putting the petition up is to make it in such a way that these women have a place that they can come, relax, and enjoy the program. They can remove their hijab, they can feed their babies, and take care of their normal things that they would do, even in the privacy of their home. So this is the reason for this. It is not mandated in Islam to put a wall up like that. In fact, at the time of Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, they didn't used to do that. They didn't need to, especially at night or in the morning because it's dark. And under the normal, natural darkness that occurs, they could come and go without being really noticed. But when we add these lighting facilities that we have today, you have these bright fluorescent lights, incandescent lights, then certainly you want to make up for that. And how you do that is by having this partition where the ladies can go by behind them and have this privacy that otherwise was afforded to them by the natural darkness. They said, oh, we didn't know that. We didn't realize that. I said, that's okay. There's another point, too, though. I'd like to ask you this. You see how Islam is providing for the needs of the woman, right? They said, yeah. I said, Islam is a lot more than you realize because it gives always a balance. And there's a beautiful balance in Islam when we talk about the difference between the men and the women. Men have different needs than women, and women have different needs than men. And Islam is providing for that, as we just saw in this example. So then I asked them a question. If the best of your men and the best of your women are not allowed to get married and to procreate and to have children, doesn't that mean then that only the worst of your men and the worst of your women are getting married and having babies? And ultimately, what would be the society? That only the worst of the people are giving birth and only the worst of the people are continuing in the society. Whereas in Islam, the best of the men and the best of the women are encouraged to get married, to have children, to procreate, and then to raise them up as good, responsible citizens, as good, responsible Muslims.